Okay, so in this video, what I want to look at, this is actually my Khan Academy account, and I've got an example class on here, and I want to show you everything that you can look at about your students on Khan Academy. So this is my example class. I've actually got all of these sample students here in this class. Again, my class code is up here, which is really important for later. But I've got Cindy Carter and Glinda and Janet and Joey and Marva and Matthew Smith and Rodney Hayes in this class. And I want to show you everything that you can look at with these students. So this is just up here on the Manage Students, this is how I add their accounts. And so what I want to see here is their actual progress. So I'm going to move over here to Student Progress, to this tab, and click on that. So you can see everything that you can see as a teacher, looking at a student's account. There's a ton of data. There's almost too much data to really look through here. You can really see all of the different things that your students are doing on Khan Academy. So if I have multiple classes, I can actually switch between the classes here, up where it says class right here, and I've got my example class pulled up right here. Down here is a list of all the students that I have in my class, and it shows me a few different things. Now notice we have all zeros right here. This is what the students are struggling with. Right here is the number of skills that the student has mastered, which is really important to know those two things. And right here is the minutes that these students have spent on Khan Academy. And this shows how many points that they have on Khan Academy too, which is fun to keep up with. Well, notice that we have all zeros right here. None of these students have done anything, and it's because this shows activity from the last 7 days. And all of these students here have actually already passed the high school equivalency test, so these are old students. So I don't need to see what they've done in the last 7 days, but what I want to look at is what they've done from all time. And I can actually set that to be anything. I can look at the last 30 days, the last 3 days. I can look at any length of time that I want to look at. I can actually even set a custom range of dates if I wanted to. But what we'll do is we'll look at their progress from all time. And we can start to see some numbers showing up right here. So where it says we have Cindy Carter, I can see that she was struggling with 2 skills. She had mastered 38 different skills. She had spent 921 minutes on Khan Academy and gotten 55,315 points. And Glinda was struggling with 4 skills. She never really mastered any skills at all, and she'd spent 409 minutes total on Khan Academy. So let me click on Glinda, and this brings up a list of all the skills that she had worked on Khan Academy and how far that she'd gotten with each skill. So Glinda was Khan Academy calls it a level 2, and there's only 2 levels on Khan Academy before it says that you're mastered. But she was a level 2 in addition with 5, and she had practiced certain things like addition within 100. So these very basic skills she had all practiced. And finally, we can see that she was struggling with a couple of skills here. Those skills were adding and subtracting negative numbers, interpreting negative numbers, and if I scroll down even more, I can see some more negative numbers. She was struggling with one-step equations down here she was struggling with. And I can see that she was struggling with writing expressions with variables and word problems. And the cool thing here is I can actually see over here, she spent 89 minutes looking at this, and she tried to answer 29 different questions. So you can see how many questions your students answered and how much time they spent looking at each specific skill. So it breaks it down really far. So let's look at, for instance, adding and subtracting negative numbers. This is a skill that Glinda was struggling with. She tried 43 different questions, and she spent 26 minutes on that. And by struggling with that, all that means is that she never really got to 5 in a row. She spent, 26 minutes looking at 43 questions and couldn't get 5 in a row correct. So Khan Academy considers that she was struggling with that. And this is, as a teacher, somewhere that I would want to intervene. Well, what I can do on Khan Academy is look at each individual question that Glinda answered, and all I need to click on is the number of questions. So where it says click to see attempt details, if I click right there, this will actually bring up a graph of the last 35 problems that Glinda had attempted on Khan Academy. I can see how much time she spent on each problem and whether or not she got it correct on the first try or not. So, for instance, if we look at problem number 18 here, we can see that Glinda used 1 minute. This was 10 months ago, but she used 1 minute and she got it incorrect. And if I actually click on this graph, I can see the actual problem that took her a minute and the problem that she got incorrect. So let me click on this here, and this will actually bring me to a history of what she did here. So you can see the problem was 7 minus negative 8 equals what? And right up here where it says started, I could see that after 28 seconds of looking at this, she answered negative 1. After 22 seconds, she answered double negative 15, which was incorrect, just because she put it in incorrectly. After 32 seconds, she answered 1. After 6 seconds, she answered negative 1. And after 30 seconds, finally, she answered 15. So she eventually got the question correct, and Khan Academy doesn't let you move on until you actually answer it correctly. So she got the answer correct, but we can start to see some patterns forming here. So what we can do is look at the next problem. And this will bring up the next problem that Glinda had looked at. And her next problem was 8 minus negative 3, which after 8 seconds she got correctly. So clearly she learned something from the last problem. So 8 minus negative 3, she put in 11, and that was correct. And so we move on. So we can start to see some different patterns forming with Glinda. We can understand what she understands, what she doesn't understand. And this problem looks very familiar. This is 8 minus negative 7, which is where Glinda started. And after 12 seconds, she got it wrong, and then she remembered, oh yeah, I've already looked at this problem. After 20 seconds, and she put in 15 and got it correctly. So we can start to see her cognitive processes starting to develop here and starting to understand these negative number problems. And you can look at this for every single skill on Khan Academy. So as soon as your student answers a question, answers 43 different questions, you can actually go through and look at all 43 different questions on here and see exactly what they did and exactly how long it took them to answer the questions. And you can see what their processes are, their cognitive processes, and the patterns that they've developed.